Hey y'all, quick note. While My Hero Academia was created for kids, this podcast is not safe for work or children. All trigger warnings and spoilers for each episode can be found at our website, myheroanalysis.com. Thanks for listening.
Hey y'all, this is My Hero Analysis, a podcast about My Hero Academia, aka Boku no Hero Academia. We are three grown adults who mind Japanese children's cartoons for serotonin because God knows our brains aren't making it naturally.
Hello, everybody. Today I'm going with the name Fern again. Bud went over okay. I like when people call me Bud or Buddy, but I don't think it's going to be like an actual name. So we're going to go back to Fern because we have this whole list of names that Nicole and I came up with, and I didn't like any of them. So I haven't 100% committed to Fern yet, but it's looking pretty likely. So probably by the time of next recording, like I'll know. So woo, fun times.
Yay! Well, this is Nicole. And like for these intros, we're supposed to like tell like how we're doing, what we're up to. And I have goldfish memory when it comes to my own activities. I can remember what everybody else around me is doing, but thinking about what I did yesterday, I have to like concentrate and like plumb the depths of my memory. So I'm going to start like writing stuff down for the week for this part. So basically this week was once again like a normal, boring week because most weeks of your adult life are normal and boring if you're lucky.
Yeah, if you're lucky, you're having a normal, boring life.
Yep. So like the highlights were that I got packages. Most of them weren't for me. They were holiday packages, but still exciting. And then yesterday I like treated myself to a shopping spree actually for myself through
yourself.
Yes, through like 4 stores. And like the whole time I was looking for mushroom themed decor and there's like no mushrooms anywhere. And I went to like multiple stores and the only thing I found was the TikTok mushroom mug at World Market, which was delightful and I love it, but I need more. So I just need all the toadstools. Thank you.
Yeah. One day they will come back around and be in fashion.
They better.
You're probably like a year or two early.
I'm sick of all this freaking bland wheat stuff they got going on at Target. Like, no, give me mushrooms.
I know what to get you for Christmas then.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all, it's Maria. Oh, God. I am not a normal person, so I always have something going on. So, I don't know. What have I done this week?
Survived.
Procrastination. That is what I have done this week. I've had so many things going on. It's like Halloween week, and like I feel like I've been pulled like 50 million directions this week.
Oh, baby.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm here. We're queer, and my ADHD brain is happy.
All right.
Yeah, Maria is the shining example of what a very active and chaotic adult life looks like. So,
yeah. And my life is at the opposite end of the spectrum. So like it's a wonderful balance that we have struck here.
Look, I need excitement. I get bored really easily. So
you do.
Anywho, so
you need the stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So here is my note at the very, very start of this episode. I am hyped while writing these notes. I am caffeinated, alcoholated, and fed. So I have no idea how these notes are going to go.
Yeah. This week, Maria and I both did our notes while drinking. So.
And I did mine sober. So it's an interesting balance that we struck.
Yeah. So I did my notes after. So at work, we had a holiday party where I started drinking, and then I got a whole bottle of wine and I got food. So I was very, very hyper while writing these notes, and my brain was going like a mile a minute. I don't know. It was going fast.
Yeah. So this is going to be fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this week we're covering episode 11 of the anime. The title of the episode is Game Over. very ominous. And the accompanying manga chapters are chapters 16 and 17. So let's end the suspense that Horikoshi so rudely thrust upon us last time and jump right in. So the episode opens with a black screen and Shiggy's voice ominously commanding his League of Villains to kill the symbol of peace. Very spooky.
Yeah, it's really spooky because it's like a combination of Shiggy's and Kurogiri's like creepy ass voices. It does set a tone.
Mm-hmm.
It is ominous. Also, considering this, we're recording this during Halloween week, I think it's pretty apropos.
Yeah,
that's a good point. That's a good point. So then the scene, sorry.
It's okay. I was just going to say, we did not plan it at all, but good for us.
The universe knew.
So the scene opens with a flashback of villains pouring out of Kurogiri's hole. And oh God, I have a note that says, even as I type, I know I'm going to regret that, but I can't stop myself. I don't remember writing that at all. So we're off to a great start. So yeah, villains pouring out of Kurogiri's warp gate, not his hole.
I mean, it's both. So.
And then, okay, yeah, moving on. Basically, we get a recap. So this is the League of Villains. They've invaded UA. They're here to kill All Might and cause destruction. As I was kicking ass, all the kids have been scattered all across the USJ arena. 13 wants Tenya to run for help. Sue and Izuku and Mineta, I guess, worked together to get away from their group of villains, and we're all caught up.
Yep. And throughout this, we also get like a boss music remix. And basically the sound is just driving home that whatever shit's about to happen, it's about to like really go down. Like, and also we do get a repeat of Aizawa being sexy, of course. And then it's back to Ida and 13 versus Kurogiri. And alongside that, it's Mineta being gross and bi at the same time. I still hate it. He will never not suck.
No. It is a very fast-paced opening credit, and they packed a lot in for a recap. It just goes to show like how quickly everything is happening. Things are about to hit the motherfucking fan.
Yeah.
Amen. You said it. And then we get the opening credits.
I jammed so hard to this, not gonna lie. I was vibing.
Our drunk asses were just bobbing along, having a grand old time for a minute and a half. And then pain.
It was so great.
So then we get a shot of the villains that are stuck together with Mineta's balls that came from his head.
Yeah.
And he makes a comment that he had a good bowel movement, so they'll stick all day. Horikoshi, like you could have just said that their stickiness is dependent on his overall physical health. Like you didn't have to scar me like that.
Yeah. And in the dub, it's not much better. He says he had a good poop, so his balls become stickier. Like I don't understand how that equates. And I do not want to know the biology of it. I am thoroughly disgusted. Why is Shonen like this? Please just drown him, Sue.
I am not even going to get into the biology of that. I refuse.
Seconded.
Well, it looks like we're starting off Trashneta's trashiness early. Let's add Kainai-jo playing quietly into his trash can on repeat.
Oh,
I don't know why Kainai-jo was the pick, but it was.
It works.
Cotton Eye Joe is that kind of song that's really fun, like the first 3 times, and after that you just want to stab yourself in the eye.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
And then of course Q, Izuku muttering an analysis time where he just analyzes the fight that they had with the villains in the previous episode, and then just talks about all the things that he personally did wrong and how he could have done it better. Like, baby, don't beat yourself up. You did a good job. Like, you guys won and you escaped. Also, there's always a point where you got to stop thinking of small details and planning for contingencies and just act, which is what you did. You did fine. Sue was also amazing. She kind of pulled him back to the present moment. Like, bro, we are still not out of this. Like, we got to think about what's next. We don't really have time for your scenarios that didn't even happen. Like, we did that later. So Sue, I know you're 15, but also can you please be my next therapist?
Yeah. But also, if she does become your therapist, she's going to need a few more like lessons in stimming and like how to gently guide folks out of it, rather than just saying, dude, you're freaking me out, which is what she said in the dub.
I mean, it's kind of like they don't really have a lot of time.
I know. Yeah. Okay.
It's crunch time right now.
Yeah. And Sue is also like very blunt, just like as a personality trait. And she's just great at like keeping them on track. These teenagers contain multitudes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I giggled when she told him it was scary. Like I was flat out giggling. I do like how Sue was able to pull Izuku back in and help him focus. I can't wait until she develops that skill set because it will definitely help her in the long run. I think she's very calm, and I like that about her.
Yeah, she's definitely a steady rock. So sweet baby Izuku's fingers are all busted up and he's clearly in pain, but he does follow Sue's advice. He refocuses and he comes up with a plan for them to sneak towards the exit. But then, of course, because he's himself, he's also worried about Aizawa being overwhelmed by sheer numbers, and he wants to help while also avoiding getting in his way. And like when he's like, hey, we should go help Aizawa, both Mineta and Sue make faces like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's probably the one time ever that they've agreed on something.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I love that it was like Sue's reminder that Aizawa is still like fighting for his life that reminds Izuku. He's like, oh no, we can't escape. We must save him because I am Izuku and that is what I do. Because he's exceedingly good, but also exceedingly dumb.
Oh baby.
Yeah. Here's another prime example of Izuku's never-ending self-sacrifice. I'm gonna need him to stop, but you know, he is who he is at this point.
Yeah. So then Izuku's future self voiceover takes over and we get the very ominous statement. We had our first win in our first battle. That was where we were mistaken. We were under the illusion that our powers could actually work against the enemy. Like in hindsight, this is a little overdramatic because spoiler alert, they do make it through and no one actually dies. But it does add to the sense of foreboding. Oh God. Wow, that's all caps. Okay.
Yeah.
While the voiceover is happening, we get a focus of Izuku's facial expression and just my tiny sweet boy and his determined little face and like his cheeks and jawline are still so round because he's still a baby and he grows up so much and my heart can't take it. I don't know what to do about this.
Yeah, you got emotional looking back at season 1 Izuku.
He's just so baby.
He is. But like essentially what Izuku now wants to do, now that he's been reminded that Aizawa is probably getting his shit rocked, he wants to approach and like see if they can help from the outskirts of the fight, like maybe like stop a few villains on the outside just to lighten his load. But then his narration kicks back in and he tells the audience that it is indeed a dumb plan, even as he's coming up with it.
Yeah, Izuku just wants to help poor BB, but it is very ominous. And I get what they're trying to do with this episode, though. We have to keep in mind, this is their first fight with big bads. And to the untrained, it is a huge obstacle that usually isn't overcome until later in their training. And here they are already doing it.
For sure. Yeah. They get just thrown in right away.
Yeah. Also, Izuku is so cute, serious, and adorable. I know. And in my notes, it says cries in telenovela, but I guess.
You had a vibe going. So then we cut to the landslide zone where Shoto's busy absolutely roasting the villains that he easily defeated.
Okay, I need to clear my throat for this.
Okay.
Shoto!
Yeah, you know what? He deserves it. He did really good here. He also has this interesting line.
Very interested, very emotional about this.
Yeah, he has a really interesting line. He goes, "You just look like guys with quirks they didn't know what to do with," which is a repeat of something said in episode 1 or 2. I can't remember which, but that's just so much social commentary in one line. Good job, Shoto's brain cell that's currently driving. Good job.
Yeah. And like I completely missed the commentary and the callback there because I was so focused on Shoto actually being a badass for once instead of just staring blankly at the screen.
Just read this notice says my son is a bad.
He's just a bad.
I think you had bad bitch. Or badass. That works too.
And so I'm just laughing at these notes. Oh my God. Anywho, I love him so much and everyone is iced and he did such a good job. And my God, I am so proud.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we're very proud of him. He did excellent. So Shoto also notes that most of the villains have absolutely no clue what the fuck they're doing, and that just a handful of them are actually dangerous, according to his standards anyway. And his standards are very, very high. So Shoto at this point is just like this really interesting and honestly heartbreaking mix of like soft-hearted and ruthless. Our poor child. I'm going to go cry. Y'all can break down the details of this scene.
Yeah. And then I took up the mantle of this, and like basically he's musing like as he's walking down his own icy path that he'd originally thought that they were like all elite criminals who were going to overpower All Might like together. And then he also does a very skillful move of dodging an attack that's coming from behind, which is impressive on its own, but also the attacker yelled while he was doing it. So like that's mistake number 1. You deserve to be frozen for your lack of logical strategy, sir.
Yep.
And then Shoto like repeats there's only going to be like 4 or 5 real players in this fight, and he decides that he needs more information about their plans, and he starts questioning one of the frozen villains that he's already put out of commission, and that poor guy is actually crying.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has this like really ruthless line. Shoto says, "Lucky for you, I want to be a hero, and so I want to avoid any unnecessary cruelty." Like, sir, that was a lot for a child.
So much.
And then like the next scene, like I had a moment where I realized he was like doing a foreshadowing with his hand going for the villain's face. Like it is near identical to what happens in a little bit. And I was like, oh no, oh dear.
Yike.
And then he continues like with his stone cold, like questioning, I guess. And he says, "Tell me how you're going to kill All Might. It's the only way you'll survive." Like, sir, I forgot that early Shoto was so stone cold. And no, that wasn't a pun. Get off my back. It's just what came out of my head. But poor thing. I would like argue he doesn't only have 2 brain cells. It's just he has a lot of them, and then they like take a vacation after Izuku does a befriend, and that's when he gets just 2 brain cells working at any one time.
It's also pretty common for abuse victims to start aping their abusers too.
No.
Yeah. So this was the moment he became my son, and I never ever looked back. Good job, Nicole, breaking it down. I is proud.
Well, thank you.
You did a good job. You did a great job.
But I said he had 3, and the third one makes the entrance when he's battling. However, I do concede he might have another 2 when it comes to fighting for the people he cares about. So, what, 5? 5 is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. My theory is that 1 brain cell controls his brain at a time, and the rest all go take a nap.
Yeah, that works too.
Also,
this poor child.
Yeah, he and Denki are both on like the same himbo scale, but like opposite sides.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Many different flavors of himbo are represented.
Yeah, it's like I wish he and Denki were closer. That's a friendship I want to see develop.
That would be great. I would love that very much. Especially because it ties into my main ship like so well. For the listeners, I ship Todoroki and Kirishima. It came to me in a vision. Sometimes divine inspiration just intercedes and canon becomes useless. So
yeah, it's a ship that gets little airtime, if any. But
I am living on crumbs.
I would argue that when we do get the airtime for that ship, like it's there. I see it, honestly.
Mm-hmm. One day I'm gonna finally sit down and write that fan fiction, and then you'll all see.
Yeah, but also you've been talking about that fan fiction for like a year now. So
yeah.
I'm not holding my breath.
I know. I never write anything.
Oh God, I need to do my fanfics. I've been putting it off.
Mm-hmm.
I do too much.
Same.
Yeah. So then we cut to the mountain zone. Kaminari is freaking out, running around. Jiro's fighting people with her sword. Momo has her staff. Holy fuck. That is a lot of villains that they're up against. It's like 20 plus. And you know what? I'm with Kaminari on this one. That's too much. Also, as he's running around, he makes a River Styx reference. And like, I know we joke sometimes that I'm a little bit like Dinky, but also I might actually be a little bit like Dinky. That's a me move right there.
There was no like River Styx reference in the dub. So like, what are you talking about?
I never noticed he made a reference to the River Styx. And oh my God, I had like a conniption. Okay, so time for Maria's Greek mythology lesson of the day. So the River Styx is a river in the underworld. It serves as a barrier between the living world and the world of the dead. And in order for you to get into the underworld properly, you have to cross the boat. You have to be taken across by boat to the River Styx.
Yeah, you have to cross the River Styx on a boat.
Yeah, so basically it is the thing you see before a proper quote unquote death. So Kaminari is using this as an instance to pretty much say that he just saw his life flash before his eyes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Copernicus all over again.
Yeah, because in the dub, he literally just says, I just saw my entire life flash before my eyes.
Yeah.
There's no sticks.
Yeah, so it's a much more roundabout way of saying the same thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Horikoshi, honey. Darling, you're
Love
confusing me.
I love it so much.
And like my only note on that, because obviously I'm watching the dub and y'all are watching the subs. My note is Dinky is panicking and there is manic banjo music in the background, and that is his personality in a nutshell.
Yep.
I agree, but also I want manic banjo music to dictate my life too.
I feel like it already does.
You're not wrong.
Well, then, like, while Denki is just having his moment, Jiro and Momo are actually fighting the villains like badass motherfuckers. And Jiro is like fully sick and tired of Denki's ridiculous narration, because every like panic thought that's going through his head is coming out of his mouth.
Yep.
I mean, I would argue that it's just panic babbling that we all do. But I guess because it's Denki, there's just that added layer of being done with him.
Yeah. Jiro and Kaminari apparently have plenty of time to argue. This is definitely a defining characteristic of their dynamic and their ship.
Yeah, basically their ship is much banter, very himbo and punk.
It's a bi-dynamic if I've ever seen one.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Totally. And then Jiro tells Kaminari to use his quirk. And we learned that although he can discharge a lot of electricity, he has like zero control at this point. And so if he tries to do that, he'll hit Momo and Jiro as well as the villains.
Yeah, like essentially at this point, he has no way to aim his quirk. And so he'll hurt Momo and Jiro, and he doesn't want to do that. And then in the dub, he says, or do you want shock treatment today? Sir, your himbo smarts are very disconcerting.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to bring up, so last episode in hindsight is a little embarrassing. The reason we missed a pretty obvious detail. The reason Aizawa asks Kaminari to see if there was any communication signal isn't because of its quirk. It's because he's got a radio headset as a support item in his costume. And we totally skipped over that.
Well, we didn't know that's what it was. I thought he could only use it like through his quirk. Like he had to somehow put his lightning into it anyway. It's never clear that it's like a radio headset.
I think you're just supposed to assume.
I don't like assuming. And I would argue that we are still smarter than Horikoshi because we came up with an SOS signal using electrical frequencies. But I guess I digress. The radio support item makes a lot more sense, but it's not obvious.
I did have the thought, like, was he the only person out of this whole class to include a communication device in his costume? And I think he was. But also, since it would be very dinky to include like a practical item for a completely impractical reason, my theory is that he only added that so he could use voice to text so that he could tweet in the middle of fights, because everyone needs to know how funny his quips are.
That is definitely the reason he has a radio.
This is canon. You cannot tell me otherwise.
Yeah.
Or to listen to banjo music while he's fighting.
Plot twist, it's all in his head.
All of the music in the show is coming out of Dinky's
his radio. I wonder if the only reason for that is because everyone also has cell phones, which can function as radios, because like in cell phones, they have radio chips. Anyway. Through his comm device, he can actually confirm that there's still interference, like jamming the signal. So because of that, and because he can't use his quirk the way he wants, he's counting on the girls to do all the work because boys are dumb. But like, don't worry. He makes upgrades later to his costume. He just learns slower than others. He's a good boy. He's not the traitor. Damn it.
No. Yeah, he's the goodest boy. And if he does turn out to be the traitor, I will start a revolution called Justice to Dinky.
I'll probably just quit the show.
We'll start a recording. Fern has left because we read the most recent chapter and they gave up on the entire property, which is not an overreaction, honestly.
It is absolutely something I would do, but I'm not going to do that. When we started the podcast, I understood that I committed to the show. So, yeah, but I will be really fucking upset.
We're going to have to, if it does turn out to be that we're going to have to do a bonus episode when it happens and like interrupt the episode, like timeline, like, no, we got to talk about this.
Yep. Maria and I will just go off. So yeah, Kaminari doesn't want to use his quirk. Jiro is like, fine, I'm just going to kick you at the villains so that you can electrocute them individually. And it works. Kaminari is amazed. Jiro is exhausted.
And in the dub, she says, "You're a real damsel in distress, aren't you?" And I'm sorry, this is just literally all banter between the two of them. And she loves him and hates herself for loving him. It's like the perfect dynamic between the two. I love them.
They're pretty cute.
And the next note, Denki realizes he is useful for once, and Jiro is still exhausted. This whole entire fight is her bi-panic moment, the poor dear.
Yeah, she's got to fight with her two crushes. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing we need to remember is that a lot of these kids haven't had the time to practice and or use their quirks properly, and they are still learning and experimenting with them so that they can find out their limits. And sometimes you need a literal push to find it.
I love it.
Jiro and her bi-panic, I relate, boo-boo. I know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then we get a fight scene, and I'm really bad at describing these. So Nicole, take it away.
Well, next, after, like while Kaminari is shocking the other guy, another guy with like an earth-based quirk tries to attack because, you know, earth like nullifies lightning. And then like Jiro uses her ear jacks to create a sonic wave that disperses that rock so it can't interfere with the discharge. But the punch does actually land, and it lands right on Denki's face. And but then like after he's been punched, he like can't move his hand, so the shock goes into that guy too. So now he's shocking two people. And then another villain leaps at them from behind, and Momo, who's a badass, throws a net over him that weighs him down, which she just created on the fly and tossed it at the same time. And he lands on the three of them. thus continuing the shock attack into himself.
And poor Momo's just like, can you two please get it the fuck together? Like, jealous much, but also, yes, less yelly, more fighty.
Yeah, but it's also just continuing banter now between Momo and Jiro, and they're also exhausting. None of this is actually realistic in my experience. I'm so alone.
I've been in these situations before. It's a lot. Oh God, me and my unsuspecting flirting self. Anywho, also, Momo is a model student, so her desire to get rid of these bitches who got in the way of her lesson is totally understandable.
Oh my God, that's such a good point. She's probably like, I was going to learn something today and y'all are interfering with my grade point average, so you got to go.
Yeah, and I'm going to beat your ass to do it.
So then we get Present Mike's voiceover about Jiro's quirk, which is called Earphone Jack.
For her quirk, Earphone Jack, Present Mike introduces it as a sound-based quirk, and that actually takes out quite a few villains from a good range, basically when she's amplifying her own heartbeat in a directed attack. And then she like bemoans that Kaminari didn't add any aiming gear to his own costume. And like, I bet she told him to get his shit together later.
Yeah, I love her yelling at Kami to get his shit together. But to be fair, the only way to know how to fix your suit is to be an actual battle. And I don't think if this had gone the traditional route, these changes probably would have been made much later. Also, Jiro yelling at Kami using her quirk and holding her sword is peak. Bye!
She is giving us all of the bisexual energy. So while that's happening, Momo is defending Jiro while she's busy yelling at Kaminari. Very supportive girlfriend. Good job. She notes that it takes her a long time to make something big. And then this giant blanket thing like explodes out of her back and then rips up her top.
Yeah, and essentially like Momo is defending Jiro from a villain that had tried to attack from above. And after that, we get a gratuitous cleavage shot. Like, come on, people, this is a literal child. Why?
And on that note, it's finally time to talk about the girls' costumes because I finally have the energy for it and it's relevant. So like, I'm not even going to go into the sexualization of minors because that's obvious and also well documented by other fans. So if you weren't aware of that, that's your fault. It's obviously gross and pedophilic as fuck. Moving on. The issue I'd like to address today is most of the girls canonically don't like their revealing costumes because the biggest counter argument to the whole, well, this is gross thing is that like, let girls wear what they want. That counter argument is totally invalid because they don't want to be wearing this shit. And it just adds like this whole other layer of weird and icky, especially when you combine it with like the capitalist element and having to compete for attention to be successful. And I'm not even going to go into pop step right now. That's really upsetting. At this point in the Vigilantes arc, we still don't know what's happened to her. Her arc has not been resolved. I'm very upset about it.
Oh, Pop.
Yeah, so the one thing I want to add to this is given who Horikoshi is, I want to slightly believe that he understands that the girls in the show don't feel comfortable in what they're wearing, which is why he does what he does and then changes them later on. But there are other ways to bring this to light. Like 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I can't tell if he's trying to make some kind of point and then just like didn't do it well and just failed to hit the mark. But the result is, no matter what the motivation is, that this is still really fucking icky for the audience. So like, you know, Ochako verbally says she doesn't like her costume. And then when she's in regular clothes, she dresses much more for comfort and physical activity. So a lot of her clothes are like, you know, somewhat loose. They're not super loose. And then Hagakure, you know, people can't see her at all. But then when she has to take off her clothes for stealth reasons, she still tells people not to look at her because she's not comfortable being publicly sexualized.
Yeah, get her a goddamn Mirio costume. It's not hard to make one.
Yeah. And then, of course, Momo, similarly, you know, she tells people to look away when she has to take her clothes off to materialize something. She makes faces when people make comments about her body, although, you know, she's too shy to speak up. And then, like, here's the kicker. When she's in regular clothes, she dresses even more conservatively than a Chaco, like long skirts, turtlenecks, literally covered head to toe 90% of the time. So on that note, we know Horikoshi knows about fashion because he can draw clothes really well. Like all of Momo's outfits and his sketches that he posts on Twitter are cute as shit and really creative and fashionable. She's like a bona fide fashionista. She's certainly got like, her family's rich. She's got the budget for it.
Mm-hmm.
Why is her costume so ugly? That's a whole separate point. But like also, her costume is really ugly. Horikoshi, why did you do this to her? Okay, sorry. Back to the episode, rant over.
Do not apologize. That was a wonderful rant.
Yep, I'm here for it. I knew this was going to happen, so I'm here for it.
Yeah, that's been building up inside me for a while. I knew I wanted to comment on that, but yeah, it's just fucking weird.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is just very strange. But anyway, the giant blanket thing that Momo made is an insulation sheet, a really thick one. So she and Jiro hide under it, and this allows Kaminari to just blast everyone with electricity.
Yeah, and it just essentially goes all out. But poor thing already has like a nosebleed, and I can't decide if it was because he got punched in the face by that rock guy, or if he's already been using his quirk too hard, like for his body to handle.
I don't know.
I love the evil green he had. Evil grin, not green. Where the fuck did I get green from? Anywho, I love the evil grin he has when Momo tells him he's good to do what he wants. It's so evil and I love it.
Yep. And in the dub, he has this great line. He says, "Badass. Now I don't have to worry about hurting my friends." And like, I want to point out that like he does respect women and is a Hufflepuff. Like to an extent, he's a good boy. He just needs to stay the fuck away from Mineta in future episodes, and like,
yeah,
he like
he's just
ruins
really
him.
easily influenced.
Yeah, exactly.
So in the sub, he says, in that case, I can be really strong. I prefer the dub in this case.
Yeah,
Definitely different connotations.
Yeah, the English line, at least for like English speakers, definitely has more personality to it.
yeah. Definitely. And basically this whole scene just introduces Momo as being an incredible strategist from like basically the beginning of her education. And just like keep that in mind for the war arc, aka what is coming in season 6.
Yeah. Also, nobody dies from Kaminari's lightning blast because anime magic. Just roll with it.
Yeah. We're going to ignore the fact that it's literally millions of volts and it only takes like 100 to kill a person. It's fine. And basically he just unleashes his electrical powers against everyone. And then we get this wonderful shot of like how everyone is fried and like smoking. One of the villains totally stole Kirishima's costume idea. Rude. And also there's a literal chicken man. What is it with Horikoshi and the birds? Why?
Because there's got to be fried chicken for dinner. What you talking about, Willis?
Oh my God.
What?
I love it. We also do get this gross ass shot of Momo's naked chest. Moving on.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about the actual shot, but like Momo is like not ashamed of them being out. Like she, like all bodies are beautiful. It's just because of her quirk. But Jiro is panicking because of this moment.
Yeah, it's interesting. The only one who can see Momo right now is Jiro, and this is the only time that Momo doesn't look self-conscious.
Oh, interesting.
I do agree that this was absolutely unnecessary, but Jiro is full on panicking.
Yeah.
If there's one like silver lining to this shot, it's Jiro.
Oh, and then President Mike gives Momo her quick introduction. It's basically, I think they call it creation.
Yeah.
And it allows her to create non-living objects as long as she understands their molecular structure.
So I had a lot to say about this. So this solidifies what we already know about Momo. She is like the smartest being. Understanding the molecular structure of things takes a deep understanding of physics, chemistry, and even biology and math. Essentially, Momo is a fucking genius, And even though we don't know how she became a recommendation student, I can full on say that there was a 96% chance that she was scouted. I don't know why I chose 96, but 96 is what I went with.
Yeah, we don't really hear anything about her family, so there's a pretty good chance she's not a legacy student.
Yeah, but also they're rich, so they could have
That's true.
greased some hands if you want to be cynical about it. But
yeah,
her
there's
being
a reason
scouted,
the 2 recommendation students, like, I mean, obviously they're very talented and they deserve it, but also they both come from very privileged circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kaminari stumbles by and Jiro goes from just like staring at Momo, like, honey, get it together. But she goes from staring at Momo to like throwing herself over Momo to protect her from Kaminari's gaze. Because, you know, that would be weird. But we learn that when he goes over his watt limit, Kaminari's brain short circuits. So he's way too out of it to notice.
Yeah. And like while Momo basically did her thing, Jiro calls her punk rock, like a true gay. Mm-hmm. And then she defends her honor from Kaminari by like throwing her body over Momo's chest, essentially. Like, I don't think she planned it, but I'm sure she didn't mind that little moment between them.
Oh, huge sacrifice for her.
Oh,
huge
yeah.
Sacrifice. Good Lord, these 2. And then, yeah, let's just go ahead and segue into like a discussion about Kaminari's like dunce state, like how it happens, how does he feel? I feel like it's appropriate here.
Yeah, definitely. So after we get like President Mike's usual introduction of his electrification quirk, he reveals that if he like goes too hard with his wattage, he essentially short circuits his own brain. And like, no matter how he's actually feeling like within his brain, you can go a couple different ways with that. Like quirks are terrible sometimes.
Yeah.
I guess this is Maria's Science Corner of the episode time. So, the brain is made up of synapses. Well, it's not a type of cell. The cell is called a neuron, but I was drunk while writing this. Anywho, so synapses fire off electricity in order to function properly and send signals throughout the body. So essentially, the body is run by small electrical signals that fire off information. Since Kami's quirk is electrical based, it just throws off the charge of these signals, so the body will focus more on the important functions within his body, which are the functions of the heart, brain, and lungs. So the synapses will focus on that until Kami stabilizes again, depending on which how much he discharges, which could take a few minutes to a couple of hours.
Yeah. So. I kind of wanted to discuss some of the TikTok theories about Denki's or Kaminari's state of mind when he's in his like dunce face or he's in dunce mode. Because a weirdly popular theory is that Denki is still aware in his mind and he's like trapped inside of a mind prison. And then people go really dark with this. And I was like, damn. So I was wondering, like, disregarding the actual science and how he'd probably actually feel, like if you were to ignore all that and just go metaphorical, what do you think it's like?
I don't think he's trapped in his head. I think he's just dissociating.
I would say dissociating is probably like the best way to put it, because sometimes your mind just like turns off. And I feel like that's probably what happens to him. Again, his body is focusing more on keeping him alive than anything else. So your mind can shut off when you're at points of stress.
Yeah. And I would say he's like dissociating and like reverting to his very base personality, which is goober. And basically he'll just be that while his body like reorients itself to normal electrical flow throughout his nervous system. I don't think he's trapped anywhere. It's just, I mean, it sucks that he's basically injuring his brain like that. But it's not a mind prison, in my opinion. That's a really dark. Are TikTokers okay?
No, they're not. They're not at all.
For a mind prison, it would definitely his mind would still have to be working, and that would take away from the actual functions of his body.
Yeah. So, well, I think they're not interpreting it literally. You're going for a metaphorical interpretation, which actually is kind of the way I went. So like, the way I went is that like, if quirks are, the thing that makes you unique, your talent, the thing that, society shames you for, whatever, all of those metaphors like condensed into one. It's kind of implied multiple times throughout the series that if you don't use your quirk, it ends up hurting you.
Mm-hmm.
And so my interpretation, metaphorically, not literally, is that this probably feels like really, really good, like a massive adrenaline dump.
Yeah, that's it.
Tension release. And so like whenever he's in like dunce mode, I just imagine that he's just super high. Like he's zooted.
That is a great point. Yeah, I can definitely see
that. And he's just having a grand old time, just vibing.
Yeah, even from like a halfway scientific standpoint, shooting off overflowing electrical information that's overloading your system, like in any system, that's going to be a relief on the system. And because it's on a human, obviously it's going to feel good because that's just how bodies work.
And also, indulging your personal taboos often feels very, very good.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's why I don't believe the box brain theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I disregard that as well.
Yeah. Same. He's dissociated and or pleasantly high.
Yeah.
And he probably doesn't
there are moments of pleasant dissociation.
Yeah.
Like dissociation isn't always bad. Sometimes there are times when I just check out for a minute and I'm like,
Yeah, it's great.
I'm just vibing.
Yeah. I'm sure there is probably a drawback to it. Like he probably knows that this dissociation is bad when it comes to battles. So he's probably got anxiety related to that, but the state itself is probably not hurting him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I choose to believe for
other
my
than
own
like
sake
brain damage
that it feels good.
Yeah, like other than the brain damage, he's probably fine in the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure his body is like well, we do know that bodies don't always compensate for quirks, so maybe not. I was about to say that like maybe his body compensates for it by like throwing extra like healing resources towards his brain, but maybe not.
It's possible, but we don't know. So
but we're not going there. That's another very, very dark rabbit hole that TikTok likes to go down a lot. So
TikTok needs a nap. Just all of the app needs a nap.
Yep.
Except the pug. We all need to know if it's a good bone safe or not.
We love Noodle the pug.
Noodle.
So getting back to the episode.
We got really distracted.
I mean, I thought it was a fun
related tangent. Yeah.
No, I think we did pretty well on this tangent compared to some of our other ones.
So yeah, Kaminari is in his dunce mode. Momo and he's taken out most of the villains. So Momo, Jiro, Kaminari, they think they're safe, but a hand punches ominously out of the dirt. But then fucking cutscene to I hate you, Horikoshi. Sue, Mineta, and Izuku, who have decided against everyone's except Izuku's better judgment to sneak closer to where Aizawa is fighting everyone and see if there's like any way they can possibly help him out.
Yeah, and I literally just had this same note about the hand punching ominously out of the ground. Also in my notes, I've stopped calling Mineta by his name and he is now just grape bitch in my notes.
Love it. Okay, so apparently the hand punching, I got distracted by science and I kind of forgot about it until I remembered this note. Apparently I was a glass and a half of wine at this point. I don't know. Apparently I thought I missed it, but I didn't. There was a lot going on with that note.
It's okay. You circled back around eventually. So of course Aizawa is doing his thing. Do we need a thirst break?
Always. Take it away,
Nicole. So they've arrived at the edge of Eraserhead's fight, and he is still kicking ass because he's a badass motherfucker and so sexy. I love him. Kick their asses, babe. I'm good. I'm cool. I'm fine. Let's get into the actual fight.
No, you're not. If I'm not, you're not. He's so sexy. God damn it.
You're right. But just for the fight itself, basically a bunch of villains are already laid out on the ground, presumably unconscious or too injured to move. And then we see Aizawa literally just yeet himself like straight up into the air. And he uses his capture weapon on 2 more people and plunges down on top of them to smash them into the ground, also rendering them like not a threat.
Yeah.
But when he does land, he remains like kind of seated or like squatted on their backs, and he's panting for air, and you can tell he's getting tired. But also, this was also sexy. But also, someone please help my husband. He is getting tired.
Him kicking ass is a glorious sight, and I spelled sights wrong.
I thought about correcting it, and I was like, "Nah, it's fine."
But also, I agree. He does need help.
Yeah. So Shiggy finally gets off his ass, and he's rushing at Aizawa.
About time, crusty ass.
So like as he's rushing at Aizawa, Shiggy's doing this like countdown thing because he's noticed there's a point where Aizawa's hair lowers because he's got to blink. And this poor man, he's blinking more and more often. There's less and less time between blinks because he's tired. How dare our problem child be right on the money?
Yep.
Or even if I had his sad story, I don't care, crusty ass. And now that I actually caught up with the anime, I still say no.
Yeah, sorry. To clarify, by problem child, I was referring to Izuku being right about Aizawa getting tired and needing backup, which justifies Izuku's savior complex in this moment.
Yeah. I was with you. I was there.
I was having a time, okay?
You're good. You were straight vibing.
Yeah. And then like as Shiggy is running at Aizawa runs at Shiggy, and he says final boss, which yes, it's a nice video game reference, I guess. But sir, now is not the time. But it's okay. It's okay. His hair is back up. He's sexy. He's fine. He can say weird things.
Blame that on Horikoshi.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everything I don't like gets blamed on Horikoshi directly. I'm like, no, my sweet baby didn't say that. Horikoshi made them say that.
Good. Yes, I like this. I will use that going forward. And basically they clash, and it looks like Aizawa's got a good hit in like on the guy's like torso or diaphragm. But then it's revealed that Shiggy actually caught his arm as it was attacking, like right at the elbow.
So my note is, oh no, and my brain went straight to the Kung Fu Panda. And then I sent a link to our group chat with the video from Kung Fu Panda.
And neither of us had any idea what was going on in that scene.
Yeah, no, because I have not seen any of the Kung Fu Panda movies.
I have, but it has been a really long ass time, and I remember jack shit. So we apologize, Maria. I'm sure the reference is very clever.
Oh God, I'm over here crying now, laughing so hard.
Kung Fu Panda, for listeners, is like one of Maria's favorite movies.
Why?
Because it's so good. All 3 of them are so good, and the humor is top tier, okay?
I'm sorry.
Every time this movie comes up, Maria ends up exactly like this. It's so funny. I love it. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah,
Maria made a very clever Kung Fu Panda reference, and we didn't get it.
Yeah, and we are sorry. Anyway, so my next point, I'm sorry, I have to bring this up. I regrettably see where the eraser dust crack pairing came from. I don't support it. If this is your ship, ill. Like I don't want to yuck your yum, but I am yucking your yum. It's gross. How dare. Don't touch my husband with your dusty skin flakes, sir. Blech. Anyway, Shiggy leans over Aizawa, and I think that's where it came from because there's like the leaning. Yeah.
Well, Shiggy's definitely an eraser head fanboy.
Yeah, but also ill. Okay. He basically reveals that Shiggy has realized Aizawa's quirk is active when his hair is up, and his effective time has been decreasing as he fights. Like Fern pointed out, he's been blinking more.
Yeah, you put that way better.
Thank you. And basically when Aizawa's hair drops, it means you stopped using your quirk, which like, yes. Also, I appreciate the sexiness of hair down fighting Aizawa, but dude, man bun it, top knot it, whatever you need to do so you don't have a tell. I hate that Shiggy is right and taking advantage of this, but Aizawa, man bun, please.
A man
Something.
But my only note was fuck Shiggy.
Yes.
So vehemently fuck Shiggy.
Yep. Yeah. So as Nicole pointed out, Shiggy has a hold of Aizawa's elbow, and he starts disintegrating his elbow, and he gets down to the exposed muscle before Aizawa pulls away.
Yeah. And I was in pain because Aizawa was in pain, and the pain noises and like, oh dear, like he's literally just breaking down Aizawa's elbow, and his skin is like disintegrating off of it. It's gross and it's painful, and I was clutching my like shirt's neckline over my mouth because I've seen this 4 times now and it's still painful.
This is a lot.
Yeah, the amount of pain that he must have been feeling was probably astronomical. Also, I would like to point out, this is a segue I guess I had while watching this. The drawings are actually pretty accurate to how the human anatomy book is. So good job, animators.
They just went copy paste. Yeah. So Aizawa powers through, and he keeps fighting somehow. Pure adrenaline, I guess. But he is struggling super hard, obviously.
Yeah.
There's no way you couldn't after something like that.
Yeah. I mean, your fucking skin's been peeled off essentially. But he does fight back, and he reactivates his quirk. And like I paused it because like I pause when I'm writing my notes so I don't like miss anything, but I paused it so that his hair is like back from his face and like mid rise up into the air. And I am sorry, I am objectifying him disrespectfully at this point, but it's so good though. It's so good. So if any of our listeners are curious, I watch on Hulu, and this shot specifically is at the timestamp of 14.07 minutes left in the runtime. You're welcome.
Yeah, Aizawa is such a badass, and I love him. Also, the fact that I feel like adrenaline and the fact that his freaking students are in danger is what's pushing him to surpass his limits. And did I just make a Black Clover line reference? Yes, I did. Do I regret it? No, I do not. And now that I am sober, I still do not regret it.
I mean, it's also a My Hero line. Like that's the whole point of Go Beyond Plus Ultra.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, I guess. Anywho. Also, the fact that Aizawa can move that fast, considering the amount of pain he's in, is right now downright impressive.
Absolutely. So Shiggy is doing his own version of Isuku's analysis thing, which the parallels, we're not going to get into that right now. But Shiggy also thinks Aizawa is very cool. And bitch, you are not allowed to be right. Who gave you permission to agree with us? Go away.
I hate that season 1 Shiggy is actually capable of things. Like I only remember him being a tantrum Karen man-child, and like how dare he be good at things?
Exactly.
Rusty ass motherfucker. Exactly what I was thinking while I was writing this.
Yeah. For sure. And then I dive right into the fight again. Aizawa gets Shiggy off of him and retreats, but now his elbow is destroyed and essentially useless in a physical fight. But he continues to fight anyway against the other villains who are like still on their feet and surrounding him. And he's like desperately trying to keep his quirk up, but he's not like taking them out of the fight anymore. He's in too much pain. He can't use both arms.
Yeah.
And like Shiggy narrates that Aizawa's quirk isn't suited to long drawn out fights with multiple opponents, just like Izuku pointed out in a previous episode. And how dare the parallels, don't agree, but also they're there. And he continues to narrate as Aizawa fights essentially one-armed now.
Yeah.
Aizawa can still dodge really well, and he does use his capture weapon with one arm, and he does use the body of one villain to deflect the attack of another and take out this new trio. And then he like essentially turns around to face Shiggy again for round 2, and like he's got his capture weapon ready. He's got his quirk on, and he's ready to go. Shiggy is undeniably impressed with Aizawa's stamina and determination, and like, how can you not? He's the literal best in the show. Don't at me. He even calls him so cool, which like, okay.
But you don't get to say that.
No, I don't like you. How dare you agree with me? Anyway, but then he reveals he is not, in fact, the final boss. The big bird guy is. Oh dear.
Mm-hmm.
Go, Nicole, go. You the best.
Oh,
that was a very good breakdown. Thank you.
My mouth is so dry.
Drink some water, BB. So the rapid response that Aizawa has in this fight shows just how much he has tuned up his body to at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling if this was anyone else, they would probably already be dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Aizawa's skills and determination just really get their spotlight in this moment. So the bird brain person finally joins the fight after just sitting there and doing nothing, staring off into space, and basically takes down Aizawa with one swipe of their like massive ass clawed hand. And I am so glad that Aizawa's takedown happened off screen, because the blood splatter and the goggles flying into the air was like enough.
Yeah. Like when he attacked, all we see is the broken goggles flying off with blood, and it was scarring. And how dare.
It was a lot.
So he looks menacing as fuck when you see him behind Aizawa, and you get the sense that this is not a motherfucker you want to mess around with.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the fact that he was able to do so much damage to Aizawa, even if it was off screen, you can tell he is powerful as fuck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and like while this is happening, we actually cut over to Deku, who is watching Aizawa now getting beaten by the bird guy, and we can hear the fist falls of the beating, even though we don't see it. And like Izuku is petrified for his teacher. And I do want to point out that this is foreshadowing and emotional setup of certain things that are going to happen in the upcoming season. I am not ready.
Oh God.
One of the things to notice is that with each punch sound, Izuku gets progressively more and more petrified. He's literally getting traumatized with each punch.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then we got a cutscene to the entrance where we finally get the 13 Kurogiri fight that I've been waiting for. So Kurogiri mentions that as powerful as 13's quirk is, she's got some blind spots when it comes to battle experience because she focuses so much on rescue. So again, there's this emphasis on the struggle for balance, how to deal effectively with people causing harm to others without causing further harm yourself. It's this massive ethical issue that we're all familiar with. I often enjoy the story's approach. I think it approaches it in very creative, easy to understand ways. Yes, I am going to yell at Horikoshi one moment and then compliment him in another. Like, what can you do?
I mean, counterpoint. The true transcendence we could have had if My Hero was through the female gaze instead of the male gaze. I mean, there's arguably a bunch of stuff already in there that the female gaze kind of claims under its umbrella that's already present in the show. But also, it's a shonen and the industry is gross and we can't get away from it. So,
Yep.
All I have to say is if you want to watch a shonen written by a female, go watch Demon Slayer. It is top tier.
Yeah, but basically the point is 13 forgot to protect her back. So Kurogiri sets up a warp gate behind her. So while she's using her quirk, he turns it back around on her and effectively takes her down.
Yeah, and he basically does this by using the portal to turn 13's quirk around to rip into her own back and basically just knocking her out of the fight with one move.
Yeah, arguably it is pretty smart, but
my wife, she's on the floor and she's all ripped up, and I completely forgot that this was how this happened. So I was just like, oh my fucking God. God, this episode is hitting a lot harder than I remember it hitting in the past.
Yeah, and I did remember how 13 got beaten. I was just like, why are you so excited to watch this fight? It doesn't end.
I didn't remember. Yeah. Also, while all that's happening, Tenya is still fucking here. And Sato was like, bitch, go.
Yeah.
Moments like these where the show's pacing and like what's actually going on, like chronologically, because they can't show everything all at once. They have to break it down in different scenes. And the way that doesn't always match up every single time gives me a headache, no matter like what kind of show I'm watching. My brain is just like, don't like.
Yeah. And on the flip side, I do like, because I'm here, I'm with it. Each new scene is a stimulus. My brain does like very much. Thank you.
Yeah,
me too. Since I'm used to watching anime, my brain is just automatically wired to understand that this is all happening at the same time. But I can see how it could be pretty overwhelming. A lot happens, and sometimes it's hard to visualize that this is all happening at once.
Yeah, my brain, for whatever reason, really struggles with that. Like, I understand it, but
it's not enjoyable.
Yeah, it's just not enjoyable.
Yeah, we just all have different brains, and that's beautiful. And my next note was that Ida still hasn't gone for help because he's a slacker.
He's not a slacker. It's just been 2 seconds.
I know, but he's still a slacker. He should have.
It makes him look like a slacker, though. You're right. That's the part that my brain doesn't like.
He got the order and still hasn't followed it. Sir, follow the order. Go get help, sir.
I mean, there is a lot going on, and Ida has to fight with his inner "I want to help" versus doing what is asked of him. He just wants to protect.
He needs to follow the order.
Yeah, but he gets his ass in gear. He fires up his engines and he dashes past Kurogiri. And Kurogiri knows that they'd be fucked if other teachers show up, so he has to try to stop Ida with another warp gate.
Ida dashing past Kurogiri is really impressive. He finally got his ass in gear. Also, you can tell Kurogiri is impressed with Ida, was able to not be transferred to another zone. He successfully evaded being warped to another place.
Yeah, his speed definitely comes in handy. And then, of course, we got brief cutscenes to Katsuki and Kirishima kicking ass in the collapse zone. Shoto's running from the landslide zone. Nina and Achako are trying to take care of 13. And then Sato and Sero are like guarding them while they try to do whatever first aid they can possibly do. And basically Tenya, like, he's freaking out because everyone's safety depends on him now.
Yeah, I would argue that he's not freaking out. I would say he's actually finding his resolve to do the thing that feels like abandonment. Like he's picturing all his classmates needing his help and realizing he's not.
Yeah,
he's not.
That's what I meant.
Them.
I just didn't put it right.
Okay.
Yeah, I did too. It gives him the motivation he needed to go. He wants to protect his classmates above all else, even if it means not getting directly involved in the fight itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. But yeah, he's having a hard time getting past Kurogiri and all his warp gates. But then Shoji like leaps on top of the warp gate because anime magic. So Tenya can escape, but of course Kurogiri keeps pursuing Tenya. Yeah. But still, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, like essentially what Shoji does, like out of nowhere, he just leaps into action. He saves the day. He's the best. He needs more airtime, damn it.
Amen.
And basically what he does, even though like Fern says, I don't know how, but he somehow wraps himself around the portal itself to render it null and void, and Ida is able to keep running. I do not understand the physics of it because science is hard. But I guess it's like because his flesh is blocking both the entrance and the exit, like he can manipulate the size of the area of the portal. Like, I don't know. Flesh does not seem like a good counter for a literal wormhole. But Shoji did good, so I don't care. It works. He's a good boy.
Your guess is as good as mine, babe.
Yeah, I have no scientification for this. That's a new word I'd made up while drunk. All I know is he is the best boy.
He is the best boy. And then we also get a series of quick cutscenes of everyone slowly becoming overwhelmed. More ominous future Izuku voiceover being like, we still hadn't seen anything yet.
Yeah, essentially what's happening is Kurogiri is chasing after Ida, but Uraraka does see an opening. It is the metal thing that Bakugo and Kirishima revealed earlier with their attack, but only if she can exploit it before it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like how Chaco immediately focused on that and recognized that it might be important.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we see Kirigiri trying to engulf Ida as Ida just focuses and closes his eyes because he wants to save his classmates more than anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's trying not to look back.
Yeah. And then like we get a couple little cut scenes where like everyone is in danger. We cut back to the mountain where Denki, Momo, and Jiro are safe. But they're not, because the villain leaps out of the ground and starts a new attack. And then we cut back to Deku suing Grape Bitch as Deku narrates just how out of their depth they all really are. And Aizawa's fate is finally revealed, and he is trapped in a pool of his own blood with the bird guy on top of him holding him down, and his arm is pinned upward at an unnatural angle, and it's bad.
Yeah, this is definitely a darkest hour, and I really, really miss Haikyuu when the worst thing that would happen is that Hinata doesn't get to exhaust himself on a volleyball court. I really miss the low stakes. I really miss it.
Yeah. Now I'm picturing Hinata and USJ.
Oh, good God.
Poor Hinata would not survive.
No.
Oh, nope. So we finally get more info on the bird brain person. A, he's bioengineered. B, he's called a Nomu. And C, Shiggy refers to him as the anti-symbol of peace. So this guy is the part of their plan that involves taking down All Might. And like when I first watched this, I thought Nomu was like the person's name, and I thought he was going to be like a recurring character, and he seemed like very tortured, so I like totally latched onto him, and I felt so bad for him. He doesn't last very long, spoiler alert. This particular Nomu is not a character. He's not involved in the story at all for very long. He's just the introduction for this whole other thing.
Yeah, that's a better way to point it. And like you can still, I feel bad for him too, and I hope he gets a redemption. We haven't seen it yet, but it could still happen. Anyway, the whole Nomu thing is just so terrifying and heart-wrenching. If you don't feel bad for the Nomus, I seriously question your mental state. Anyway, also I just looked it up as I was writing these notes, and apparently the word Nomu in Japanese means brainless. So according to the fan wiki. So
makes sense.
That.
So when we first watched this, we had no idea just how much Nomu would come to be the sadness in our lives. We were so innocent.
But anyway, cutscene, back to the collapse zone. Katsuki is being himself, doing it very well. Kirishima also kicking major ass.
They did so good together, though.
They kicking asses.
Yeah, they kicked so much ass. And I thought it was really interesting that Kiri was all like, oh, 13 could have fucked up that fog guy right away if we hadn't interfered. We need to wrap this up and go atone for our mistake. And obviously by interesting, I mean completely fucking emotionally devastating. My poor boy, it's okay. You tried. You just really wanted to defend your friends.
Oh, poor thing. Yeah. Oh. And like, as they're like finishing up their fight, Kirishima surmises that everyone is probably still in USJ too and wants to defend his classmates, especially the ones with less offensive abilities than his and Bakugo's, especially since he screwed up and got in the way earlier, according to his viewpoint of it. But it's okay, baby. You actually did good. You'll see. You poor depressed bean. It's okay.
Yes.
And meanwhile, Bakugo still wants to destroy, quote, that warpy guy. And Kirishima is just like, Baku, bro, were you even paying attention to when we failed? While Bakugo explains his actually thought out strategy that if he cuts off the warp guy's escape route, they'll all be stuck there to face justice. One more villain attacks from behind, camouflaged, but Bakugo takes them down too with one hit, and Kirishima is very impressed.
Boom boy goes boom.
I mean, he did go boom.
It's true though. Boom boy go boom. I did love Kirishima's slow realization that there is actual substance behind all of Katsuki's bullshit, and then him being just like, oh, That's why Izuku's obsessed with you. Okay, I get it now. I'm on board.
Yeah. And basically, like between the reaction time and his strategy, we cut to Kirishima's big, goofy smile. This boy is gay and in love with this explosive asshole, my sweet shark boy. And then we get here the shot of Bakugo that's famous on the internet, like with the big pointy teeth and the die. And Kirishima basically has always thought that he's never calm and rational. And Bakugo yells back, copying the mental image. He says, I'm always calm and rational, you red-haired loser. And Kiri goes, yeah, like that. So it's a great bonding moment. These boys are exhausting, but it's a great new dynamic compared to what we've gotten so far. So many ships, so little time. I just want them to be happy.
Exactly.
Yeah, in the sub, it's spiky haired punk, which honestly, that's what Kiri looks like. So I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, he's not a punk.
Bakugo has many, many nicknames for Kirishima.
Yeah. I would also argue that Bakugo is never calm, but he is pretty rational when he's not in panic attack mode.
Yeah.
And they're like about to leave, but Kirishima is now convinced that Bakugo does, in fact, care about his classmates, which is correct, but he will never admit it. And he calls that sort of thinking like a man. He's the goodest boy. He is so manly.
He's so cute.
All right. This has been Nicole's shipping corner because she has literally had no romantic contact in a while. It's fine. We're all fine.
Yeah, shipping is all Nicole and I have.
Yeah. It's a lot of projection, a lot of emotional entanglement that we lack otherwise. It's fine. Anyway. And then we get we're ramping up our own fight music. And this music kind of repeats itself throughout the series. And it's the signal for when you know the students are coming into their own in that moment. I believe it's like rap music because there's like most of it is instrumental, but then you hear vocals. Whatever it is, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good.
I fucking love this song. And if you don't love it, you are wrong.
Correct.
So then we get another cutscene to the fire zone. Ojiro holding his own, as we knew he would. What a good boy. And then another cutscene to the squall zone. And Koda and Tokoyami are defeating their opponents by using Koda as bait. And then Tokoyami comes in with a punch out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And Tokoyami mentions that if they can just reduce enemy numbers little by little until help comes, then maybe they can get through this. I am weeping. I am openly sobbing. My poor, sweet, good babies. They're doing so good in this insane situation where other people would have just lost their goddamn minds, but they're keeping calm and they're getting through it. And I'm really proud of them.
Yeah, they are all kicking asses. It is not just about the one main character. We have 20 good beans here.
I would say 19 because Mineta doesn't count, but they're all so good and holding their own. And I'm so proud.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for that necessary correction.
Yeah, it's not great.
19 excellent babies.
19 excellent babies and their dad, who is having a rough time, but he still counts. He's a good bean.
And then we have another cutscene back to the entrance. Kurogiri almost gets Tenya, but then Ochako, as Nicole mentioned, notices the same bit of metal that Katsuki did in the last episode and assumes the same thing. Kurogiri has a physical body under all the smoke, so she grabs it and she levitates it, and this successfully distracts Kurogiri and it lets Tenya reach the doors.
Yeah. And essentially Ochako has attacked like the badass she is. And basically what has happened is, I think I said it earlier, but basically Kirishima and Bakugo's attack did actually reveal Kurogiri's weakness, and it wasn't a pointless attack, honey. And I hope Kirishima gets told that part of it.
Well, we all know that I think Kirishima and Ochako are gym bros. So in my head, it definitely came up.
Okay. Yeah.
I love how she's like, I don't know how your body works, but I'm still going to fuck up your life.
Yep.
Yes. Amen. So Tenya has reached the doors. However, it's an automatic entrance. So it's not just like a push-pull situation. And it's been sealed off by all the technology fuckery that the villains are doing. So he's got to force them open. And, he's going to need a couple seconds to do that. So Sero buys him time by grabbing Kurogiri's metal thing with his tape that Ochako was levitated, and then Sato grabs the tape and fucking just throws Kurogiri.
Yep. And the whole scene where Zero like lashes him and Sato swings him around and around. It's like Mario and Bowser on the Nintendo 64 game. It was great. And he just goes flying away and Ida gets out to get help. And yes, they all did so good.
Yes. Group effort. Good job, kiddos. You all did amazing.
I only noticed this. It's a bird. It's a plane. Oh no, it's Kurogiri.
Bye, bitch.
Also, Tenya is finally able to escape and just hauls ass back to UA as fast as he fucking can.
Run, Force, run.
And Kurogiri, of course, is like, fuck, it's basically over now.
Yeah, he knows it's over when Ida gets out because he's going to call for backup. And even Villain knows that teamwork beats unique abilities every time. God damn it.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Aizawa the wump continues. He's getting basically tortured by the Nomu. And he either can't erase the Nomu's quirk because of that heteromorphic stuff that we discussed earlier, or he's just that strong. Aizawa theorizes that the Nomu is as strong as All Might.
Yeah. He is literally being tortured and his poor goggles are broken in half on the ground in the blood. And then the Nomu destroys Aizawa's arm and the cry of pain. I can't, like, my heart cracked too when it happened.
Mm-hmm. And then Shiggy's back on his bullshit. Bitch, you don't get to call Aizawa cool 1 second and then insult him the next. Only we get to be inconsistent like that.
True.
You don't get that privilege.
I know. How dare. So to break that down, Shiggy like insults Aizawa's quirk. He calls it annoying and like equates it to quirkless people when faced with true power, to which I'm assuming he means himself because he's a freaking child. But then Aizawa turns and does attempt to erase the Nomu. And I paused it at like the exact right moment. And like, we'll post it on Twitter because Eraser had said gay rights with a rainbow around his eye when he first activates his quirk. This is visible at 6.54 minutes left in Hulu's runtime if you want to go check out the wonderful gay pride. Anyway, his quirk doesn't work and his broken arm is stomped. And because of this, he realizes he's like as strong as All Might because it's taking no effort to break literal bones. Mm-hmm. And then the Nomu slams Aizawa's head in the ground and I wanted to die.
Yep.
Nicole's gonna hate me right now. He's going snap, crackle, pop, and that's all I could think of at this moment.
Oh my God.
You're never allowed to take notes drunk again. How dare you?
My humor is top tier. What are you talking about? I do gotta say though, the slam in the ground was a bit excessive. Leave my husband alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is so much. And Izuku, Sue, and Mineta are just witnessing all of this, which I'm sure is having no effect on their psyches and definitely isn't going to scar them for life.
No, definitely not. No. Psych. They are all fully terrified and traumatized and petrified. And basically, we do see the effect of watching Aizawa get beat up on Izuku and Sue later, specifically in season 4 and then again in the war arc. So just remember this emotional moment. But we don't see any effect on Grape Bitch because he's literally the worst. And I wish he would choke on his own stupid balls.
Yeah, Mineta turns to Izuku and he's like, you're having second thoughts about jumping into the fight, right? But you know the answer is no. Izuku never met a fight that he wasn't going to get involved in.
Yep.
What is mental trauma? I don't know her.
We don't know what that's like.
No.
We can't relate at all. We're definitely not projecting. So then Kurogiri pops up next to Shiggy and he's like, I fucked up and other people are going to be here like really soon. So let's go.
Yeah. He just says, yeah, we're out of time now. And Shiggy proceeds to have a full-blown meltdown, temper tantrum, scratch fest because he's literally so gross. Take care of your flesh body or you will disgust the masses.
This is the moment I knew I would always hate his character, even if he had a sob story.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gross.
And I still do, now that I know.
Yeah. And like while he's scratching himself, like I don't even know, he literally threatens his partner and who is also his caretaker, technically. But we learn that later. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then he stops scratching to reveal his gross neck over the gross blue hands or whatever they are. And then he continues the video game metaphor. Ugh.
Yeah, here's the thing. I also have skin problems. I have itchy skin problems. I have chronic hives. I'm allergic to like every skin product under the sun. It is actively ruining my life. The scratching is still gross. Oh my God, it's so bad. Okay, Shiggy, you need therapy because that's like a coping mechanism that you've got, but it's not a good one. It's definitely a form of self-harm. Also, maybe do some sessions with a quirk expert so you can figure out how to not dissolve yourself. But that is a thing for another day. We will get there eventually. But oh God, it's so bad.
Same. Allergy meds and lotions do wonder. Get your ass medicated for fuck's sakes.
Yeah, I think a quirk expert would probably be more useful because I do think they tried all of the allergy meds and the lotion and they didn't work. So it's not really an allergy. They just think it is. It's complicated. It's still gross.
We'll get to it.
Yeah. Again, now I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, for listeners, I wrote these notes right before I finished season 5.
Yeah.
And so I had 7 episodes to go, and then I still feel the same way about everything. Just so you know, no feelings have changed.
So at first, Shiggy is like, okay, then, after he's done with his little meltdown, he's like, well, okay, then I guess we got to go. We can't compete with several pro heroes. But Izuku is like having a suspicion. He's like, I don't think he really means that he's going to go. Also, Mineta is gross again, and Sue just straight up starts drowning him as he deserves. Back into the trash can grave he goes.
Yep. Sue just drowns him because of his gross assaulty actions. And basically Sue and Midoriya discuss that something fishy is going on. And also, that's how you should be reacting, you rapist, not fondling your classmates, you disgusting turd.
Ugh, he's the worst.
I thought I was done finding ways to torture Trash Netta on this episode, but here we are. Let's add moist socks to his clothing so he can touch the biofilm with wet socks. Doesn't that sound pleasant?
Sounds very appropriate. Thank you. But then, of course, Shiggy is like, ha, psych, we're going to break All Might's spirit, even if he doesn't show up. So he reaches for Sue, and Izuku remembers his disintegration abilities, and he's like, oh, fuck balls. But then Aizawa comes in clutch and erases his quirk, even though he's basically ground beef at this point.
Yeah. Also, Shiggy moved way too fast to be allowed, sir. How dare you have skills again? And then, like, Shiggy says, you really are so cool, Eraserhead, because he's the worst. And it's revealed that Eraserhead is somehow still alive, and he is covered in blood and furious, and he's erased Shiggy's quirk before he could hurt Sue. He is my husband, and he is perfect, and he wins.
Yeah, Shiggy, he is cool as fuck, but shut the fuck up, bitch.
How dare you address him?
You know, Dadzawa was not going to let his kids be hurt. Our husband is like, hurt me, but if you touch my kid, I will fuck you up.
Yeah.
Yep. So then the Nomu slams Aizawa back into the ground. Izuku like leaps into action. He's mainly focused on getting Sue out of there and running away. So like finally he has a good plan.
Yep. And the whole time he's narrating crap, which is, it's very nice. It's very realistic. I liked it.
For once.
Yeah.
And so while he's trying to run away, he aims a smash at Shiggy, and it's so strong it blows out like half the glass in the arena. But somehow his arm isn't broken this time.
Yeah, and I love how literally everyone expected his arm to be broken.
Yeah, honestly, on the first watch, I did too.
Same. And the Nomu blocked the shot, so Shiggy's fine. But you know what, baby doll? You still did good. You still did good.
He did so good. Like his punch created a shockwave that knocked a bunch of other villains back out of the way. And also he broke a bunch of glass that was like miles away, maybe. But it was like at the top of the arena. Yeah. He's just very powerful. And then Shiggy mocks him for being a disciple of All Might. I hate you.
Christ, even Shiggy noticed the similarities between these two. It's definition of unsubtle.
Yeah.
So Izuku noticed that the Nomu wasn't affected by his smash at all. And he remembers Sue's words about the villains having a plan to deal with All Might. So like Aizawa, Izuku is also putting the pieces together that the Nomu is here specifically for All Might.
Yep.
Yeah, you can tell that Izuku is shooketh by this.
Mm-hmm.
He was fully expecting to smash through everything, including his arm, but we're not going to get into that.
Yeah, it's definitely a shock. So the Nomu is reaching for Izuku. Sue is also reaching for Izuku. Shiggy is reaching for Sue and Mineta. Aizawa is losing a concerning amount of blood. There's lots of slow-mo buildup, so the tension is just at its peak.
Yeah, it's all in slow motion, and you're not breathing as you're watching this because you don't know what's going to happen. But I do want to point out that I would not have minded if Grape Bitch did get disintegrated. It would have been nice.
Obviously.
Oh, what we could have had.
But yeah, this is the epitome of anticipation. Everything is so tense, and you feel exactly how you feel like when your life is flashing before your eyes.
Honestly,
English.
yeah. And then boom, doors blow open, billow of smoke, so drama. All Might is here. And like, I know we got bigger problems, but god damn, his titties look good in that shirt.
Yo, I saw this note before I'd even started the episode, and I was crying for like 5 minutes just at that line. You are right.
Okay, so before I read my note, I was waiting for this to happen because
Nicole had already commented on it in the group chat.
Was dang, his titties look good in that shirt because I was working. And I usually am not on the group chat very, very often. So I knew it was coming. I didn't know when it was going to come. So my note was like, I was wondering when this was going to show up, and I am absolutely dying. I had to pause for so long because I was laughing so hard.
Oh my God. They're just...
Good job, Fern. Anyway, also, it always bears repeating, and we do appreciate Fern's note because have you seen those moves?
Boys got body, yaddy, 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 yaddy. Hi, Megan, we still love you.
So I paused on this moment and took a good minute to appreciate the moves.
As you should. As you should.
At this point, I was almost done with the bottle. Do I regret it? No.
You were having a great time.
Point, I was also most of a bottle into my wine.
Yeah. Y'all made some beautiful notes while you were drunk. Anyway, basically, the doors have burst open, and if you couldn't tell, All Might is here, and everyone freezes, and the violins and the flutes start up, and he's taken his suit jacket off, and his moves are on glorious display in his dress shirt, and everyone's happy to see him. And All Might is not smiling this time, and he's fucking pissed. Also, you can already see that his All Might form is already smoking even as he arrives. So, like, shit's gonna go down.
Yeah, I also noticed that he seemed to be, it almost kind of looks like a grimace, and I couldn't tell if it was like the seriousness of the situation or like the pain and stress of holding together his All Might form, or both.
Yeah, I would say both. Like, he's pissed, but also he's in pain.
Yeah, he's got a lot going on here.
Yeah, and then stupid fucking Shiggy, he comments that his game is getting a continue.
Yeah, everyone is in shock, awed that he's finally arrived. We know shit is about to hit the motherfucking fan, but at least we got some to bask in the beautiful moves available.
We have one moment of joy.
Yeah, All Might's about to fuck some shit up, and he does not approve of his kids being mistreated. We are ready for the justice.
We are so ready. So then we get the end credits.
And there are no fun credit updates today. I checked.
Darn. Oh, well. And then we go to the preview. All Might is here and everything is fine now. Or is it Nomu versus All Might showdown? Who will win?
Yeah, we all think he's here to save the day. And also everyone is still fighting this fight, but also his weak spot. Oh, no.
Yep. This episode was a lot more emotionally taxing than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
So the whole entire time, I was like, how have I not gotten as far as I thought I was? What the fuck? And this was with my caffeinated and extremely alcoholated self.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we have to pause like every few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a lot.
So now we're going to go into manga differences and red thread theories, all that good shit. Take it away, Nicole.
Yep. So for the manga differences, there's not that much this time. Like for chapter 16, along with the usual dialogue and translation differences, we do actually see that Momo has been drawn with an actual realistic body, like including stomach rolls and thigh curves. And all of this was evilly taken out of the anime because Shonen likes favors stick thin girls in the animation because that's just where we are as a society, and it sucks.
Yeah, East Asia especially, like not that the US is necessarily any better, but East Asia especially has like a fat phobia problem. But I have noticed lately, I didn't notice this, but in the most recent manga chapters, I noticed that Horikoshi's been drawing both Moma and Oshako like thicker and thicker, but like not in a weird fetish way, surprisingly, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
So
They're just there and they're thicker and it's fine.
Yeah.
So actually, as per usual, I didn't read this far in. But there was a article, I think, that said that the animators purposefully changed how Momo and a lot of the other girl characters, like their body shape was. And they didn't follow Horikoshi's actual drawings. So.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
Yep, everything. Editing is a nightmare.
Yep. Anyway, for chapter 17, there's like really not any changes, but it is a little clearer that Shigi actually called the Nomu over to help him when Izuku was going in for that punch. So
interesting.
Yep. All right. So for the red thread section, I've got a couple sections just unto themselves. We do start with Shoto's character development. We'll get into what is actually going on with his background pretty soon, like as far as episode count goes. But I would say like what is happening right now is that he's like literally coming out of or acting through like a trauma response that's kept him alive for his entire life and everything that's going on in his home life. We're going to get like deep into his backstory and like there's a lot and it's not just soon. It threads through like the rest of the series. But just know that this whole like doom and gloom and ruthless thing that he's got going on, it does not appear to be his true personality or the one that we see develop when he's placed into a caring and nurturing environment.
Yeah, that actually ends up being like a thing for a lot of characters where they were one way before they came to UA, and then because they have each other, they're able to like become better and for themselves, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. So my next point is that Momo is a strategist, and this is a thread that is going to run right through to like the current manga chapters. And I honestly wasn't sure why Momo was getting so much airtime in a shonen, like when I was first watching it, especially because she's not really close with either Izuku or Katsuki. But now I'm actually becoming more familiar with like the Eastern methods of storytelling and how it is a lot more like circular and not so intently focused on the main character's journey. It makes total sense and it's wonderful and I need more of it. And why is American traditional publishing so set in its ways? That's a whole other podcast though. So
yeah. We're finally catching up to like Maria's standard of knowledge.
Yeah.
No, so for me, I didn't even notice it because I'm so used to it at this point. Because a lot of anime will do that, especially anime where it's like it has a lot of secondary,
a big cast.
Yeah.
So Naruto is a big one. They go really deep into some of the secondary characters and their backstories, and it all makes sense. It all comes back down. One thing. And so it's a very circular. They focus a lot of time on the main characters and like the primary, secondary characters, which would be Bakugo, Shoto, and Izuku. But the other ones have a lot of importance to them also, and they add a lot to the development of these secondary characters.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
That was a mouthful.
Well, my next point is sadder. Aizawa's bloody scenes and broken goggles are undeniably reminiscent of Shirakumo. We'll talk about it when we get to it. It's sad. We're all sad. You can't escape it now.
I just completely skipped over that in the timeline. I was like, nope, cannot handle. I don't know what I'm going to do when we get to season 5.
No, we're going to have meltdowns on every recording.
Well, that's also a while away, so maybe we'll be in like better mental shape.
Well, it depends on where the new chapters go.
That's true.
My next point is the Nomu. The Nomu is important, but there's not really much else to say other than a big piece has just been placed on the chessboard of the show's plot. Not necessarily the Nomu we're seeing, like we chatted about earlier, but its thing. Also, Horikoshi has some sort of bird thing going on. That's neither here nor there. It's just interesting. And once you see it, you can't stop seeing it literally everywhere.
He's like a bird person, you know?
Oh my God, I just had that headcanon. Maybe he goes bird watching on his time off.
Horikoshi's a bird person. He's got bird person energy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. And then my last point was Aizawa defending his class. It's not really like a red thread in and of itself. I just noticed how this fight is like essentially, and this is a spoiler for manga material. This fight is essentially repeated in the arc that it's going to be the bulk of the upcoming season. So go read the manga, people. It's going to get bad and you need to be prepared.
Yeah, by upcoming season, she means season 6.
Yep.
Yeah, so do we have any final comments?
I mean, has this fight been going on forever? It feels like this USJ fight has been going on forever.
Not as long as the Vigilantes won, Christ.
Oh my God.
To get through a lot of this. And this episode was so like packed. Felt like it was going on forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, so much happened.
Yep. All right. This has been My Hero Analysis. You won't hear us next week or the week after because we'll be taking a break for the holidays, but we'll be back in January with the final episode of the season, as well as a season wrap-up bonus episode. So in the meantime, go beyond plus ultra and thirst responsibly. Bye, y'all.
Thanks again for listening. If you'd like to get in contact with us, have questions you'd like us to discuss on air, give topic suggestions for bonus episodes, or submit fan art for us to display, visit our website at myheroanalysis.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Just search for @myheroanalysis. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.